record, right?
It's recording.
You're recording? All right. Actually? Okay, here we go.
Because it's still saying like that since it's not supposed to start now.
Okay, so what, yeah, there's definitely a time issue with this one tonight. What's going on?
Well, I know this is like a 45-second delay anyway, so we'll see if that changes.
Okay.
Oh, no. We're going.
You live there? And this is on. And go. Cares about you. Now, next up, social entrepreneurship. Come on. Production view. View. Production. Why not take that forward? No, I'm worried about that. Huh? It's just not going forward. What is up with this?
Well, I'm going to control Q and get that to start.
That's fine. Yeah, it doesn't really, again, I get the fact it doesn't really matter. So, those, we're just going to come over here. Okay. Alright, so we'll just use those. Doesn't really matter. We don't need this. So whenever you're ready to go. We only have the one thing today. So. What's that? Yeah. I'm just saying the one, this, I don't want this, but we've got the questions there, so. You'll do this countdown and control Q when you're ready. Hello and welcome back to Udicci.TV. We're back again. My name is Chuck Levecchi and I've got David Day with us. Hey Chuck, how are you? Good. How are you doing? Excellent. All right, today we're going to continue our journey along the idea of understanding social entrepreneurship and a little bit more about the Institute as a whole. So today's topic, we're actually going to, what does it mean to be a social entrepreneur? And why don't we just start with that? What does that mean? Why and why? Why a social entrepreneur?
Well, to ask the question is to sort of look at entrepreneurship is the ability to create, manage, and organize a venture. And what we do at the Institute is help people to take those ventures and not just sell products and services, but how could those activities solve problems in a variety of other ways and in arenas. So the Institute is to expand the vision of entrepreneurship to applying and addressing issues outside the normal products and services we're used to seeing.
So literally, you start creating value for an individual or a business, as well as creating value and opportunity in the community to solve something positive. And we're seeing that that's actually becoming more and more popular right now. When we're talking about cause-oriented type businesses, and more because I think I guess humanity is demanding it.
Yeah, in many ways, people are looking for, well, what's the end goal? Is it just about getting the cheapest price for something, or is it about something that you believe in that's greater? So the causes give someone something to cling on to other than the low cost or the performance of a product or a service. So it's more than just the product, and people are looking for more, and we need more. Our communities do.
It's interesting, as you say, like looking for that lowest cost. One of the things that always gets me as an entrepreneur, and I get it, we're always trying to figure out how to scrimp and save and to run a business, and sometimes that's necessary, but I think it's interesting as consumers who are always out looking for that lowest cost, and then turn around the next moment going, I wonder why my job isn't paying me more. Right? And it's because you're supporting something that's driving cost down, not actually increasing value in your community.
Yeah, and we all know if you get the cheapest contractor, it's usually not the best contractor.
Right.
But people look at cheapest as the best. And in many cases, social entrepreneurship isn't taking people that aren't talented or skilled. It's taking talented, skilled people, and they're applying their talents and their gifts and addressing needs that are broader than just products and services. Now, they have to sell a good product or services or people won't come, but it goes beyond business as usual.
So let's get into a little bit more depth about what it means to be a social entrepreneur later on in the show. But
okay.
Let's talk a little bit right out of that. So what is the Institute?
Well, the Institute is kind of I look at it as not only a think tank, because we have great theory, and then ultimately we want great practice. So we go out and we develop concepts of how social entrepreneurship could be applied, how it could be researched, how it's transforming lives, and then we show others that you can actually build a business that solves a complex need, be it a business need or a social need. We have traditional clients that just are doing great products and services, and we help them. Then there's clients that say, hey, we want our business to do more. We want it to actually impact the world in this way. It could be a water invention that people come up with. So it's not just products and services as we're used to. It's about how do you apply this concept of risk-taking, managing, organizing, and assuming the risk of a venture and applying it to issues. It could be disease control. It could be weight loss. It could be any passion that people have that aren't in these traditional ranks.
Pretty much, so a couple things you said there that I don't want to lose track of. One of the last things you just said, though, it could be weight loss, it could be anything. And one of the things I think, when I think of an entrepreneur, you're absolutely right, there's always a means of creating revenue out of a problem, out of an opportunity, out of a challenge. Now, it's not always immediately evident, right? So now I'm going to take a step back and talk about a think tank. And it really got me thinking. In my head, I went to this whole idea of a bunch of people sitting around a room who are entrepreneurs and having people come before them and saying, all right, here's something that I think really needs to be changed. Childhood obesity, or you know what, we need to reduce the violence. And how do we do that? And then just have a think tank. All right, great. What are some things we need to do? Let's look at the variables. Let's look at the causes. Let's look at what's available. And creating an opportunity to profit from that.
Right.
It really is extraordinarily encouraging because A, you can make your passion your profession.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people, you can look at it in two ways. You can build a great deal of wealth, become a philanthropist, and fund things with your name on them. Or you could take those skills and passion that you have now, and how could you apply that in addressing needs in a broader way, not just from the philanthropic way. And one thing about social entrepreneurship is the goal is to replicate an idea, a thought, or a practice inside others so that they'll own the opportunity. So it's a transfer of not just always solve the problem, but the wealth of knowledge on how to solve that problem continuously and grow.
I think that's it too. It's sharing amongst one another. Like, look, I don't want everything. This is where I'm strong. This is what I can do, and I can make a living doing this. And if we work together, yeah, this is great, and we all can grow together and start solving things. One question comes to mind, and this is the thing that we've run across on occasion, not often. People will go, all right, but when you're out there profiting on somebody else's problems, is there an ethical issue?
Well, that's interesting. For the past 20 years, we've all had this conversation. Is cash king, or is the customer important? And every good business better do good, and every good better be thinking like a business. So there's a collision in the middle where ethics need to be built into what we do. And the thing with social entrepreneurs, we're not going to build a business that's going to harm people. The businesses that we help develop are solving problems, not creating them.
I think that's exactly where I would go. And that's it. it's kind of do no harm, right? I don't know if you know, Google has this internal motto that says like, do no evil. I'm like, okay, let's not set that bar too high, right? Or you know, that kind of thing. But I think the social entrepreneurship is actually do good. And when we do good, we actually do. We create value, and I don't think it's problematic. I just think that some people have taken this, well, you're exploiting X. How about this? I'm raising awareness of X, and I'm finding a means of doing it all the time because we're solving a problem, and I'm not looking for charity to do it.
Right.
And I think that that's an important piece for people to understand, because I do hear that once in a while. And as we go into today's show, I really don't want people thinking about like, oh great, these people are just out to exploit others to make money, because that's not it at all.
No, and the beauty of it too is that when we look at social entrepreneurship, there should be a win-win for the folks that invested initially into the concept. So you're investors, you want to be paid back. The social entrepreneur is going to win by, it's a passion of theirs, it's a purpose for them, and they get permission from it, somehow build up. At the same time, they're sharing that message with others, that owner view, so the problem will continuously be solved by the people who are verily impacted by what you're trying to do. So that's what we call the triple bottom line, but
absolutely.
The challenge is everybody makes money, there's ownership, and you solve problems. Why can't, it's like a shark commercial, why can't you jump on board? The challenge for many is they see the social as insignificant, or that's hands-off, or that's what government should be doing, or schools, or
that's an
healthcare, or medical. That's not business. That's not what we do. But when you look at it, a lot of people make money off of people that are sick. And shouldn't we have solutions that make people well?
That is very, very interesting when you look at it that way. I mean, you know, we've got these massive charities in the United Ways of the world who do great, but they really, you know, they're big businesses that collect money and then help other organizations. And we don't have a problem with that. And you're right, everybody looks to the government, and yet, what are they doing? They're big business. They collect money from the citizens, and they employ people, and they help. So why can't it be the individual who's really passionate, compassionate, and wants to make a job for themselves and others in the community who are right here and able to make a difference?
Well, when you look at, most people like to solve problems from an interventive mode. What is the real problem? They rush in to solve it. The house is on fire, so we'll put it out with the hoses. But many of the problems that social entrepreneurs want to address are preventative in nature. We don't want to wait till a problem is exasperated. We want to solve it upstream. So the solutions we're talking about, let's say graduation rates in a high school, or preparation for the workforce. Entrepreneurs have a greater view of how to do that because they solve complex problems. And although that would be a low-level problem for an entrepreneur, he would just say, teach them the way that they can learn best. And design a curriculum that works for them. Train the teachers to do this. So entrepreneurs pose questions, but they also come up with solutions.
That's right. So. And I think that you're absolutely right. There's so many people out there who have entrepreneurial tendencies. And you're right, you're always looking at something going, it could be better, and here's how I'd fix it. And it's not that you're right, but put in that room of the think tank, then all of a sudden you're going, wow, we can solve these problems together. So with that idea, what is the mission of the Institute?
All right, so the mission of the Institute is to design and develop programs that promote social entrepreneurship. So oftentimes, we're out on the, I would say, the precipice of designing things that work. We have a curriculum that designs social entrepreneurship in schools. So we didn't wait for the schools to develop it because they didn't have the perspective. We designed and developed that, tested it, and now we're implementing that in schools. So oftentimes the Institute is on the forefront. We also developed a framework so people can see themselves within social entrepreneurship. If it's too vague, people can't. So we have a framework that we walk people through so they can see that they can make money, do good, solve a complex problem in their school or community. And what else is there?
And when I hear you say that, and I know enough to say that when you say your mission is basically to create more people, to create more people, to create more people who advocate on the behalf of social entrepreneurship. One of the things that I know, it's not some broad idea. They meet with you and they go, yeah, I love this. I want to teach other people about social entrepreneurship, but it is very specific. You'll actually go right down the path with them and help them develop the entire business plan to make it happen.
Right. Part of our curriculum is sort of like my jacket fits me. And if I try to put my jacket on you, it might not work. So part of it is to match the entrepreneurial venture with the person's passion, with the profit model, with the longevity of what they want to see happen. So, and that takes a lot of care. So at the Institute, our focus is on the individual first. The problem that they're solving is different, and then how do they build a product or service that creates and generates revenue, and it fits them just like this jacket fits me.
So if we were to be talking to people right now, and there are entrepreneurs who may be listening in, and they're just saying, you know what, we want to do something, I don't know what I want to do. Entrepreneurs who are going, I want to do something good, and I don't know how to get it done. Or on the other end, is people going, I don't think I'm an entrepreneur, but I want to make a difference. All of those people, they should be calling you.
Yeah, I think for the entrepreneur, they're trying to figure out how do they maximize customer value or how do they generate profit. With social entrepreneurship, we found statistically that you can earn or generate even up to 20% more in income because you're now attached to something that resonates with your customer.
Absolutely.
The trick is to find something that doesn't conflict with your business but resonates with the customer base at the same time. So we're not advocating that you spin your wheels or spend less time being productive. We're saying if you invest deep enough and in the right way, you can earn more income than you would if you just do the traditional route of your business.
And it makes a lot of sense.
And people are doing it all over. They attach a run to their cause. They attach a cause to their business. We support the 5K run. So everyone has a little marketing blip, and they're on the TV, and people say, hey, you know what? I like that company because they supported a cause that people had.
So social entrepreneurship could be your normal everyday business who's now making it a point to be involved in a community that's helping do good. They may not be the ones going, we're going to go solve a water problem. They may be, you know what, I'm an HVAC company and we do want to help out in the community, so we're going to go sponsor this run that helps cure cancer.
Yeah.
And it might be cancers that maybe something happened in their family or whatever, so they're going to get known for, they're going to attach their brand to a cause to help raise awareness for the cause, even if their business has nothing to do with the cause.
Yeah. And some do directly tie. So they could, just as an example, Carbon Monoxide Awareness Month. Okay, so now they could sponsor, just came up with the idea, Carbon Monoxide Awareness Month, the month of October when we transition to heat, when the furnaces have to run all year. And the carbon monoxide help people detect poisonous gases so that you save lives. That's an easy win-win. But a business might not be thinking that. So but a social entrepreneur that I'm training them to think that.
So what you just simply said is that very often there are businesses out there who want marketing, and we can create marketing campaigns that bring a social nature to your campaign and bring business back to you.
Right. So that's one level of it. You can even go to the far extreme of developing a sustainable school based upon social entrepreneurship.
What would you think that looks like?
You know what
I'm sure you've done this.
It would be a unique learning environment.
Okay.
It would have to be a charter or a school that allowed you the flexibility of design. But here's what I would do. Half day would be learning by the books, meaning typical lesson plans, ELA, language arts, math, science, and all those core subjects. In the afternoon, it's all experiential. We're going to apply what we learn, and we're going to create products that sustain the school. So what student wouldn't want to do that? I mean, you're even thinking about it, and maybe others are thinking, hey, I'll learn it in the morning, and in the afternoon, I'm going to apply it. Or one day a week here you apply it. So our curriculum is designed to partner with schools and do that level of training.
Actually, I had heard about an idea for a school years ago, which was very, very similar idea, but now you've expanded it, and you're absolutely right. Like, why couldn't students be the marketers for the school? Why couldn't they run the cafeteria and learn if they enjoy food and literally experience all of that? And what are they learning at the same time? What did you learn earlier during the day? What are you learning now? And how do you bring a profit to that? It's interesting. And schools, that's another piece that I've heard people get a little bit worried about is if we get business into our schools, what does that mean?
Yeah, and I think people are challenged with, is it ethical? Are we steering our students in the right way? Well, we spent 20 years educating our students to be civil, people in an economy, and they have no context of it. So now we'll have students that are better prepared for the new economy.
That's right.
They'll have the skills that they need. They'll have the experiences that they'll need. And guess what? The learning will be fun. We just finished up a round of training students in 6th grade in a school in Harlem. So as part of the instruction, the students were going through our curriculum, and they're like, hey, we don't want to do that. We want to get to the jury. So when students are able to put to test their creativity, their ideas, and you put them in the driver's seat of owning the solutions, they come alive.
And we know that children by nature are curious. And when you open up from beyond the book, and you're like, hey, how do you think? What do you think we could do to solve this? Now they're going to have all sorts of, first off, just funny ideas. And it's going to be a fun environment for kids. But all of a sudden they're going to be like, well, no, we could do this, we could do that. And then they're going to start finding an actual solution. Then that funny one comes back and go, wait, if we did that here, that'd be great marketing. People would love that. It'd be fun, and it'd start to be engaging in the community and whatnot.
And just think, most students like to see something that's engaging. And if you put them in the driver's seat of their own solutions, they're going to be the next community developers. And that's really what a social entrepreneur is.
I was just about to make this. Yes,
it's
perfect.
the next level of community developers. And not based upon the war on poverty, 60s mentality that we had back then. We thought we could throw as much money at the solution, we could solve poverty.
Right.
And look where we are in many ways. So
I've actually, for me, I've got the little saying, and I believe it to be true. I said that capitalism is in all of history, capitalism is the socioeconomic system that has lifted more people out of poverty than anything we know before. I mean, America is the great example of that. We raised massive amount of wealth. And do we still have poverty in America? Yes. And no disrespect, but the poverty in America is nothing compared to the poverty that's in some of our third world countries right now, or developing countries, if you will. But what's interesting is somehow we think this, now, and I say that, continue on, in that same vein, look at all the other countries and all the other wealth that has been created by capitalism, and then we think the solution to poverty is to pull capitalism out of the community.
well, here's what's happening. Social entrepreneurship around the globe is being applied in we call them developing countries, more so than in the U.S. But what's happening now is that the complex needs in our communities require a different level of thought. We don't want to get rid of capitalism. By the way, most people don't know what capitalism is. Even though that's our economic and our economic system, most people think capitalism is the ability to acquire equipment. So they don't know. So part of what we do in our curriculum is to train them on the lexicon of business, understanding what an economy is. So when you come out of our school of social entrepreneurship, you'll not only be a great entrepreneur, you'll be a great social entrepreneur. You'll have the tools, the ability, the insight, and the understanding how to develop solutions to complex problems. And isn't that what we really do?
No, that's it. I can't wait for the day that I just want to sit in a room and start solving some of those problems. One of them that I heard of that I thought was just fantastic, I wish I could remember the country, but it was one of the countries where water was difficult to come by. Clean water was difficult to come by. It didn't rain all that often. They created a billboard that took the humidity out of the air, and through it's a very natural process of the sun, the power, the solar, and everything else. It started creating the capability of giving water, right, the condensation, to the people in the town. And they started just putting up these billboards everywhere, and companies started paying for the billboards because their names got attached to them. Like, look at the good we're doing. Now, did it really help the business? Were there 1 million people driving by these billboards? No, not the point. The company still got to go, we did this thing. And look at that. It's still a big advertising for them. And I love those kind of solutions.
And I think companies are wanting to figure out how do we create community for our employees and our products without overstepping their bounds. I think Starbucks and others are getting on the bandwagon and they're doing things that are non-traditional. Starbucks is now sponsoring collegiate classes for its employees.
Yes.
So of course the first question was, shareholders were like, what's this going to cost us? But Starbucks is thinking a little deeper. How do we build the next generation of managers, supervisors, and people bought into the brand? So they're thinking, how do we get young people to buy into something by investing in them? So that's what a social entrepreneur does, is provides the level and the view of ownership so that their mission is continued even if they're not there.
This is one of those questions I've thought of, and I think it may not fit in today's segment, so we can cut it short if not, but I've started thinking about that. I think that we're starting to come into a period of time where your investors are going to be okay with a reduced return if there is the public, the social return. As long as there is good, there's growth in our community. I think we went through a period of time when it was all about the return and the capital, the money. And now I think we're starting to find more and more people going, you know what? Instead of that 10, 12% return that I want this year and I'm going to demand it out of the market, we'll be okay with that 5 and 6% as long as you're putting kids in school. As long as you're
I think companies are, for a social entrepreneur, you have to think of the long view of life.
Yes.
And it's not in the monthly, quarterly evaluations that we're used to seeing in terms of profitability, but what's the long view? And I think even the valuations of companies today are looking at, it's not about accessing the product, it's accessing the customer. And people are paying for access in many ways. So I think our models and social entrepreneurship is primed and ready to be the next, what I would call the nexus of development or smart development in communities. Because in some way, we can't continue to fund things the way we have. And it's not working for many of us.
We cannot continue to fund things. That's a whole different conversation, and then we get into the whole, the different economic theories about, government spending, not government spending. But we're realizing we've been throwing money at poverty for ages, and it's increasing. You can't keep throwing money at something that's not working. And in the areas, to your exact point, that we're starting to see social entrepreneurship, that is working.
Right.
That is working, where people are moving. And here in Rochester, there's an organization over on Parcells. They decided to move into the neighborhood. And they started inviting in other people from the suburbs, say, move into this neighborhood. Let's start a community. Let's start a neighborhood where a neighborhood already existed.
Right. And part of that would be, okay, let's figure out not just who our neighbors are, let's figure out our talents, our gifts, our skills, our abilities. And then let's figure out if we can create a local farmer's market. You start with small things that make sense. We start out with a neighborhood watch. I mean, you could create, instead of paying, we're coming up with solutions on the fly. Most of us pay $39 to $50 a month for an alarm system. Mm-hmm. Right? And we get the rebate on the fire protection for home ownership. But most of it is we want to feel a sense of security and safety if we're not home. Yep. And if something's going on while we're here, we want to be able to hit the panic button. Okay, so let's develop a panic button that immediately calls 911 and it alerts them to that. And why don't we develop monitoring systems where neighbors can monitor our properties while we're away? So
a neighborhood response team.
Now, 20 years ago, we call that neighborhood watch. Now we're just taking that solution to a 21st century view and saying, how can we do this? And then, instead of spending $40 a month, we saved you $40 a month. You have a panic button to go to the 911.
It's all your neighborhood.
And a neighborhood watch that watches the exterior of your building while you're away.
I think that what we're seeing here, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is why the Institute and what is your expertise in that area? And I think that's what we're seeing, why? Because we need to start thinking this way. But let you answer that question. Why the Institute?
Well, we've actually been working on this since 2002. We got a grant from the Galsano Foundation to figure out how to define social entrepreneurship, how to apply it in all these different venues. So we're not new at the game. In 2006, we left Roberts Wesleyan College because it's now a private venture and can live on its own. So our goal is that we haven't just started this conversation. We're the experts in helping you implement it. So we're actually going to Atlanta next week to consult with them on how to develop an entire community. Now you got me excited. How to take this from a panoramic view of developing an entire community based upon community entrepreneurship development.
And so that's the city of Atlanta, or
we're going to be going to the city of Atlanta. We're going to take a targeted neighborhood, and they have the same challenges our neighborhoods have, but the approaches are going to be entrepreneurial, not deficit planning, and not we're going to go to the city. We need this, we need that, we need more money. what it is this neighborhood's going to come up with solutions for itself. And the owners are not going to be the mayor or the city council person. The drivers are going to be the neighbors that invest.
As I'm sitting here thinking about it, and you kind of took this institute from public college to private. And I think it's really, in my head, I keep enjoying the thought that we're actually in this paradigm switch where it used to be that every time a company gets started, we're like, okay, let's take it public. Because if we take it public, we're going to make a lot of money. And what we're starting to hear now is go from public, we're going, let's take it private, let's take it social. And there's such a switch going on right now that it's not about the massive money, though it was available. It's go private and impact more.
The way I look at it is this. If you have private ownership, that's at the heart of capitalism.
Yes, it is.
Where everyone owned a piece of their own solution. And that's all we're asking people to do.
Piece of land, garden.
Piece of land. And what we think about it, too, is that it's not just the wealth to create money. It's the ability to pass down lessons learned. And so if we look at the Bulgarian way of life, it used to be farming, and the son and the daughter learned farming, and they could pick or choose whether they wanted to be a farmer. But at least they understood the whole realm of it. Now, our kids don't even know what we really, really do.
I don't know.
So now, you can pass down something, not just the wealth, the money, or the accumulated money, but you're passing down the knowledge to do it the right way.
I've thought about these things before. I never, in our conversations, really thought about that aspect of it. For myself, I've often thought, you know what, I want my son to go work for you. Because I know if he works for you, you're going to pick up the phone and you can go, hey Chuck, this is what your son did today. This is what I said to him. You want to reinforce that at home. Because that's what we used to do back in the day, right? Our kids would work for you, your kids for us, and we pass on those values. And you're right, we don't get that anymore. They're only getting the school, then they go to work for some company, and the company gives them their values, or they jump out there. And you're right, if we can bring it back down to the family, to the community, we'll be stronger, because we can be stronger than more tight-knit area.
Over Father's Day, there was a little expose about fathers in business and how they help their sons and daughters. And the beauty was that they showed them the business behind the business. And so social entrepreneurship is not just a business. It's the view of how you generate wealth, generate solutions to complex problems, and you develop the win-win. And so that win-win is this. You have to pay back the people that helped you get there. Those are the investors.
Absolutely.
So investors can get a return for investing in their own community.
In the next, right.
What is so ridiculous in some ways is that we'll take our money, put it in some foreign commerce, and not know what it's doing in return to us. Here you're investing in your own solutions. And it's really interesting that people will invest in something they don't know and not invest in the thing that's closest to them.
Maybe in a future program we can talk a little bit about this, but are you starting to see an increase in like community investment funds? Individuals who are putting money together for these exact situations?
There's two things going on. One, there's a divestiture from government playing a traditional role. Block grants and all federal funds are decreasing, so communities are like, hey, we don't know how to develop without the resource of government. So there's a need to replace that vacancy that government's playing. The second thing is that there's foreign investors owning your business, owning your property, or owning your land that live in Tafar or somewhere. Right. So there's a lot of, because of the valuation of the dollar, there's a lot of overseas investment happening in our cities. They're buying up what you should own yourself. So I think part of it is our wealthy billionaires and millionaires need to start looking at the long-term return of what their dollars can do.
That is a good point. That is a really, that's a conversation that I think would be important for people to understand, and I don't know that people understand the magnitude of the depth of the problem of what you just said if it doesn't begin getting addressed.
Well, there's two things that are happening, and you and I don't need to go far to see this, is that neighborhoods and communities, neighborhoods and communities are like the arterial to the heart, or the arteries to the heart. Is without those neighborhoods, the blood flow can't come back to the heart. So the heart is, so everyone's investing in downtown areas, trying to make the glitter look good. It's kind of like a Vegas kind of thing.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, if our neighborhoods are strong, our core will be strong. So you got to strengthen both. That's what I'm suggesting. And the approaches can't be the 60s approaches to model cities development and all those other things that we did. We need to bring a fresh perspective on development. And that's really what the Institute wants to do on a larger scale, is to develop the developers that develop communities. So we want to do a trainer-trainer kind of concept.
And so what's your expertise in that? What's your background, your expertise? How do you make that happen?
Well, I spent 20 years developing communities.
Okay.
But I also spent the last 12 figuring out, how do we not do traditional community development? How do we do entrepreneurship development? And that's a different model than going to the city asking them for a grant to fund something, than saying, hey, we're going to fund it ourselves. So instead of asking for a solution, you become one. That's a different mindset.
That is a big, that's one of the things that, I'll say this. We need people, we need more leaders. We need people, when you see a problem, figure the solution out. Use your brain. I'm going to jump on my soapbox for a minute. It just gets me when people stop
You can't
thinking.
get frustrated because for the past 20, 30 years...
Did that come across as frustrated? No.
No, you can't be frustrated because we've never asked them for questions. We provided solutions. Oh, we'll take care of that. I'm your government official. I'll take care of that. I'm your principal. I'm the superintendent. I'll ride this on my back. Instead of this Lone Ranger concept, now we're trying to raise up people who stand up and say, I'm going to do it, even if I don't profit immediately from it. It behooves me to invest.
And I don't mean to take this in any sort of negative context, but in doing all of that, whenever you allow somebody else to solve your problem, whenever you don't, whenever you go to somebody and say, I have a problem, and they go, I'll solve it for you, you've just been weakened. We're not strengthening people when they're not a part of the solution. When they're not a part of the learning that's going to go on through getting the solution accomplished. And if they think they can just sit back and, okay, somebody else is going to solve it, well then don't complain when it's solved other than how you want it solved. But again, a different angle there, but it's, I think it's
the beauty of this is that I think we need two things. One, we have to change the pedagogical roadmap in the classroom, meaning instead of just asking them for answers, let's pose the question.
Yes, absolutely.
So what we need to do as part of that is develop schools of inquiry, where you're posing questions and asking them to figure out potential solutions that they own. Not the teacher come up with the solution, but the students say, okay, I can do that. And then there's levels of it. You can do that at the 6th grade, you can do that at high school, you can do it at a college level. But every business is going to need people to think this way because the new firm size is going to be 3 to 4 people, and they're going to have to think on their feet.
Yes, yes.
So it's totally different, even if you don't do this because I say you should do it or social entrepreneurship says you should do this, the employer base and the employer's demands are going to require this level of thought. And I think employers are struggling to find it.
You said like inquiry teaching, inquiry. One of the things that I think about once in a while, and I would really want to promote to people, is when somebody gives you an answer, or even, how about even better than that, whenever you think you have an answer, whenever you're convinced of your own solution, ask yourself, why is it right? And then also go down, and when you find that's why it's right, ask yourself, why is that right? Keep asking why and chasing the solution. Why? Because it starts to get to the motive. It starts to reveal so much in the way that you're thinking. So I love the idea of having inquiry-based teaching.
Well, it goes even further. We don't just ask the questions, you have to prove out the theory. And that's one of the significant differences between the Institute is that we don't want to just pose research questions. We want to have good theory, but we want to see it in practice, and we want to share those lessons learned with the world in some way. It's not a solution till someone's crazy enough to go out and apply what they thought would work in the lab as it applies in the marketplace. So you can pose questions, and it could be like that SimCity kind of life, what would happen if we did this?
Yep.
But go out and try to apply it, and then you really have a solution then.
And that's a big thing too. And to your whole point, Why? Why is what you think correct? Well, because according to this data, this market has this amount of dollars in it, and there's this many people, and this is how I talk to them, and this, oh, okay, yeah, you thought that really well through. All right, why this product? Because. Great. And that's the thing. So often we have people going, I'm going to go make $100 million doing what? Selling XYZ. Well, who are you going to sell it to? Everybody. You know what? Why is everybody going to want it? Because they are. Because you want it? Yeah. Well, newsflash. Right. There's a lot more to it. And that's what I'm hearing you say. And that's in the Institute, you're going to really give people the confidence that they need to take this to market, because all those whys are going to be answered. And when somebody asks them a question that says, well, how are you going to talk to them? Like, well, according to this demographic, which is growing faster than any other in this, they're going to understand their market, they're going to understand their business, they're going to have confidence to succeed. Yeah. Because you're not just going to go, great idea, go.
Right, and there's another level to this. Since the discipline of having a sound business concept is the same. They have to manage, organize, and assume the risk of a business. There's risk. They have to manage. They have to organize. There's an added component to the social entrepreneur's view of the world. They're trying to apply entrepreneurial ownership concepts to people who otherwise would have been ignored. So you're going to bring a group of people along that otherwise would not ever sit in the driver's seat of a business or have ownership or have any understanding of what that is. And so the crazy part about it is, that should feel a little daunting, but the solution is if you bring them to the table, show them that they belong, and teach them the skills, you'll advance yourself in them.
So some of the skills, and we've kind of brushed over them, but so what are some of the services specifically? And I know I've kind of talked a little bit about them, is that you help everything get developed from A to B, soup to nuts, and you're there to kind of support them, but what are some of the services? How would you explain?
So our process really starts with our assessment. We have this award-winning assessment that allows us to determine to what degree people are entrepreneurial and where their passion is in terms of their business. So many people want to make money, but they're not aligned with their passion.
Sure.
So our first process is, let's figure out who you are, what are your skills, your talents, and your abilities, and how do they relate to a venture that you could create. The second part about it is we have a world-class training curriculum called The Journey, which walks groups and individuals. And I want to highlight something is non-profits that for decades have used their ability to generate donated dollars or dollars given to solve a need are also finding social entrepreneurship has to be part of their core. And they're struggling to get, most of them are social workers or came out of the social sciences. And they're struggling to figure out, how do I think like a business and care like a social worker?
Absolutely.
So that transition is part of what we do with groups. And the business is thinking, how do I care about people? All I want is profit. Yep. So both of them have to go through this kind of metamorphosis that our training does. And then we help them access the services and resources they need to launch their venture. We are like the people that help you not only design the gun, load the gun, but actually shoot it. Not that we're for violence, but what we want to do is show you that we want you to actually go execute this plan. Because the plans that we help create are bankable.
And when you put the plan together, you remain on as, or I don't want to say you remain on, but you're available to consult?
Yeah, we stay with them. It takes a lot to do this on a day-to-day basis. So we mentor and provide consulting to ensure their seamless transition to implementing it.
And you're also looking for other people that you can teach to teach this.
Yeah, our short-term, long-term goals are, one, if it's just us doing it, then it's restricted to just an array of weekend. So since we have the Journey curriculum and we have some tools that we're implementing, we want to now train the next generation of social entrepreneurs.
So, question for you here. What are some next, what's coming up in the community? What are we doing in Rochester right now? How can people get engaged with what you're doing? What do you want to do here?
I have a difficult challenge in Rochester, to be honest with you, because I think our mindset is, this is social over here, social welfare, and philanthropy can help that. And here's business over here, and business is doing okay for some, but not for many.
Right.
The challenge is, it's kind of like a s'more. We want to bring together the graham cracker and the chocolate together for a winning combination. And what we're trying to do is, in Rochester, show that both the social and the business side can meet in the middle and solve complex issues. But many people aren't ready to see that here yet. So that is a challenge. So I'm being asked from to go to Haiti, to go to places like Atlanta, Africa, where people are really hungry for a solution. They're calling me and our team at the Institute to come down there. And the sad part is that the same needs that are in Haiti and Africa are right here within the square mile.
And more easily executed. Here, I mean, we have all the necessary resources, the infrastructure. We have what we need here in Rochester to begin making the difference. But
what we lack in Rochester is two things. We lack risk-taking. We don't learn from our mistakes. We avoid our mistakes. But every mistake that we make in the field is a lesson learned. How to apply it better. It's like a trial of a drug. We should be taking lessons learned and applying them and becoming better. The second thing is that people need to really be hungry for a solution, not just a Band-Aid approach. Because social entrepreneurs get to the heart of what the issue is, and they're willing to solve those complex issues.
So you're ready, like, I mean, you're standing here today saying you want to help Rochester, New York through social entrepreneurship, and all you really need is people go, okay, open their minds up a little bit. Be okay with the fact that your past mistakes, they were learning. That's what they're there for. Let's explore that the way, let's acknowledge that it's not working. There's a wonderful
I mean, Rochester has a rich history. We have
rich history,
entrepreneurial rich history.
Massively.
But we lost our mojo. And so what happens?
Get our mojo back.
We need our mojo back, but we need to get real about where we are. You know, you and I can go in the car, and we're going to get out of the car and walk in a couple neighborhoods and say, gosh, this looks like a third world country.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But if it's not bad for them, and it's good for us, why do we care? See, the social entrepreneur is like a special forces person. They're going to go to the places that people revere.
Yes.
So oftentimes, the people that we're training are going into neighborhoods or going into communities that others wouldn't go. And they go and they make a significant change and difference.
I also think that people really need to start checking themselves. I mean, you know, we've become such a self-oriented society, and it's like, well, if it's not hurting me, it's not hurting me. It is hurting you. The crime in your community, it's because you're ignoring the problems. It's, you know, all these issues, why you're not getting raises at your job, why your taxes are going up, all these things you complain about, it's because you're ignoring the problems. And people need to stop ignoring them and go, all right, I'll help. Right, you know, we don't need people to give up 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you know, but a little opening of your mind.
Here's the easy solution for Rochester. One, acknowledge that we need a different approach to development and improving our communities and schools and neighborhoods and wherever else. And it's not just the city of Rochester issue. We're having issues across the board. One of the biggest issues is this epidemic of heroin. All right, so now as a social entrepreneur, I can come up with creative solutions, and it's not just drug rehab or addressing the addiction. The addiction is part of our younger people's experiment with things so that they get a high off of life.
Right, and they're doing it with drugs that
are not equipped to handle some of these things. So a social entrepreneur would be, how do we solve the core issue? And this is affecting households across the board, whether and poverty doesn't know drugs.
And I'm going to go out here on a different direction, is that realistically, and I heard it today, we need to actually start bringing hope to some of these people. There are people, to your point, the parents are not equipped. Why? Because they've been robbed of their hope. They've been forgotten about. They've been the reason for all of the problems is this parent or that parent. And hey, you know what? Absolutely. Our graduation rates are horrendous. Is it the parents' fault? Yeah, the parents could have been involved more. But here's the thing. They probably weren't educated. They probably didn't understand what was going on. They probably didn't understand the system and how to get their kids through. And we can't just keep blaming them.
That's an excellent question, but it's the wrong question. It's not the graduation rate. It's what knowledge will you need to be successful in life.
Yep.
If you pose the right questions, then the solutions become different. And for so long, we're posing, what are the graduation rates? if they even graduate, they're still not prepared for the new economy.
I would say it this way, the high school that I went to, and I'll say it, I went to Harley, right? For those who watch, you think Allendale, Columbia, Harley, some of the best schools in Rochester. You know why? They teach the kids to think. They don't tell them what to think. They don't tell them how to think. They teach them to think. And that's what you're saying. We need to start having these kids think on their own and ask better questions so that we can fill them with knowledge that says, you can rise up. You can accomplish something.
So, and if you take that to the next level, is you're not just going to think better, you're going to go do better.
Yes.
And what we want them to ultimately do is to take what they know and apply it in a knowledge base of solving issues. And they're going to make money, they're going to do good, and their communities are going to be better off. So why isn't that a solution for many? Well, I think a lot of part is that people don't want a solution because they get paid to be a problem. Can you think about that?
That would be that's an interesting conversation.
We might be table that to another day.
Absolutely. That's a good. So hey, if you're watching, think about that. Part of the problem is that people are paid to be the problem. Let that sink in for a little bit. Don't let it get angry. Don't let you get. If you're not one being paid to be the problem, you're probably the one who's ignoring the problem. Anyway.
But the other side of this too, we don't want people to wait to have a passion out of something that happens to them tragically, you know.
And that is typically when we see people rise up and they.
But for me, is if your passion is, let's say, music, you could be a social entrepreneur, and we find music as a way of making money, doing good.
Absolutely.
So it could be just the passion that you have or a skill that you have.
It could be baking. It could be whatever your passion is. It does absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up. It does not have to be some big, horrendous social issue per se. Yeah. It is about living in your passion and then promoting good with it.
Yeah, like the baking could be teaching people math through the ingredients of baking.
Exactly.
So you have a dual-purpose goal, or it could be gluten-free, or it could be low sugar. Our kids are riddled with diabetes today.
And as a marketer, I get that instantly. And if I were to bring that to people and go, hey, you know what, you should do a baking show, and while you do it, record yourself, talk about the measurement cups, and talk about the diabetes that are going on. Now all of a sudden you have a social show promoting your bake shop.
And guess what you're going to do? You're going to get more viewers.
More viewers.
You're going to get more customers. People are going to find out that you're gluten-free, and they're going to find that you have a cause that's to help others, and you're going to win. And
the whole time you're just having fun doing what it is you like to do, talking about stuff that you care about. And everybody cares about something. Everybody always has their 2 cents, and your passion is what gets to you. It's when you start watching some of these, things come across on your Facebook page, like, oh, that just angers me. Why don't we do something about it? Why don't you do something about it? Right? Why don't you do something about it? Start baking and telling them, or whatever it is that's going on. Any other thoughts for today?
I think that's about it for today. We're going to continue the conversation in another day. But today we wanted to, one, figure out, what is the Institute? What do we do well? Why are we positioned to help others? And then lastly, what is social entrepreneurship and how it can transform communities and lives?
And I think we've talked a lot on that. And what I'd like to start doing here sometime the next few weeks is to start having people come down, live audience, start asking some questions. If we can start doing that, I mean, we don't have to get it right out of the gate, but if you start watching, you think you'd like to come out, just let us know. We'll start doing a luncheon someday out here and having some questions on that. All right, so with that, I guess we're going to go ahead and close down for today. And,
thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're good, and we're out of here. Hello, Mr. Jerry.